I'm going to start this bracelet the same way I do most of my bracelets. I've got a 5/8 inch buckle. I've got the center of my cord here, and I'm going to bring that up from the back up. I'm going to put my 2 working ends through. And I'm going to pull that tight. So I've got a cow's hitch, lark's head, cow's hitch on the back side, and I'm going to make kind of a false cow's hitch on the front so I can do the double cow's hitch. That's the way I like to do them. With this 5/8 buckle, it fills it up nice. So I bring my cord working end from the back forward, pull it through the loop here. Gives me a kind of a false cow's hitch on that end. Going to do the same with the other working end here. Going to bring it from the back side. Scoot everything down. And I'm going to fiddle around with the cord a little bit. Sorry about that. Let's get that guy right there in the corner. Going to put that through the loop. And there we go. My double false cow's hitches. Put that down here on my buck jig. Put the other end to the top. I'm set at 9.5. We'll talk about that a little later, how I came up with my size and how much cord. We'll find out if my cord measurements are close later. We'll chat about that. So I like to go from the front down through the buckle, in the center, across the top, then from the bottom up through, and then that's going to go through this loop here. Pull that tight, and we're going to make us a cow's hitch, lark's head on this end. Throw that out of the way, bring my other working end, do the same thing. We're going to go from the front, back, up the middle. Pull all my cord through. Okay, that goes over. And then this end of the cord's going to come up through the buckle from the back. And I have to pull that off my jig. And that's going to come up through the back and go through the little loop here that we've created. Pull all my cord through. Okay, pull that tight, pull that through. And so this end I've got my 2 cow's hitches again. Okay, my second color, I'm going to go with red, and it's going to go just under these 2 cow's hitches. I'm using a fid. You can use a pair of hemostats, a pair of needle-nose pliers, just whatever it takes to get that through there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my 2 ends, fit off of there. Take my two ends, and I'm just going to pull them together and find the center of my cord here. So we're set up on our jig, and I'm going to clean things up a little bit, but that's the gist of it. Whoa. I'm going to clean this up, make it tight, and we'll get started. Okay, so we've got our double cows hitch. We've got our secondary color right in the center, laced into our double cows hitches. One thing I neglected to mention, this tends to loosen up the core as I make it. So I have my jig set at 9.5. I set it between 9.5 and 9 1/4 when I put my core tight, and then I adjusted it back to 9.5 to kind of compensate for how this loosens up as I tie it. And also, just to reiterate, well, can't reiterate because I deleted the part where I talked about it. This pattern's a little difficult to follow, and as an example of how difficult this is and what it took me like 5 or 6 attempts to finally figure out an easy way to tie this, I had to delete my first part of the video and start over because... So I'm redoing this portion of the video just as proof that this pattern can be a little bit of a headache sometimes because I got it wrong. And like I said, I forgot to mention that this cores loosen up. So we're starting again. And so my recommendation would be Mr. Coop's zipper Sinnet. And if you watch JD's Grapevine Sinnet, he mentions that, well, I don't know if he mentions it in the video or if it was in the text, that this Grapevine Sinnet is just a variation of the zipper Sinnet. So I'm going to start this just like Mr. Coop did on his zipper Sinnet. I'm going to go across with my left working side here, across the front, around the back, and up through this loop that I make here. And so that's going to give me a loop here. So now on the right side, I'm going to do the grapevine treatment. We're going to go across the front, around the back of my working ends, and then back across the front. And I'm going to call this a tendril. That's the little curly-Q things on a grapevine that attach to the wall and stuff. And I'll probably use that term quite a bit until you want to smack me, but I don't know what else to call it. So we're going to call this a tendril. So I took the red across the front, around the back, across the front. Then I'm going to go through my loop here, around the back of the cores, and back out my loop. So it should look something like that. We'll tighten up the white loop. Okay, and I'm going to pull the front side, tighten up this little curly-Q tendril, and it should look like that when it's snug. I should have the white above the red. So whatever color my loop is, it's going to be the bottom color. So on the right, my red loop is my bottom color. On the left, my white, because that was my last loop I made, is the bottom color. And that's what trips me up making this. In JD's video, on the knot and loop version without a core, he turns it upside down and does it from the back side. And I had better luck. I finally about my 6th try in, I just looked at the picture and kind of kept the pattern in mind. But I think I got that figured out. So we're going to take the top working cord, go across the front, around the back, and across the front again. So I have my little tendril, my curly Q. We're going to go through the loop, across the front of the core, around back, and out. So I have a new loop I just created. Now I can tighten my right loop here. And I'm going to pull on the front, tighten up the tendrils. So I should have a little loop right here. Okay. I've got my zipper Sinnet right here in the middle. Got my tendrils for the grapevine on the outside. And see, this is where I have a problem. If I don't catch this now, it's going to cause me an issue. When I tighten this up, somehow I got my red on top. So I need to bring that back to the front. That's, for me, the thing that kept screwing me up. I got a red loop. The red needs to be on the bottom. And it's very sneaky. As you're tightening it up, it'll pop out the backside, and then I get it on top, and it screws up the pattern, and it doesn't work. So just to reiterate that, my red loop, red on the bottom on the right. On the left, I've got a red loop, red on the bottom on the left. Make sure it's nice and snug, and we're ready to continue the pattern. So I'm going to take my white around the front, around the back, and the front again. Make my little curly Q, my tendril. It's going to go through the loop, around the core, and out the other side of the loop. Now I can tighten my red loop here on the left. Okay, then I tighten my tendril up, pull the front side of this white loop. Even everything out. So I've got a white loop on the right, white is on the bottom, red loop on the left, red is on the bottom. Okay. Looking good so far. I like. We're going to take the white, go across the front, around the back, and across the front again. Got me a little curly Q. I'm going to go through the loop, front of the core, behind the core, and out through the loop again. Now I've created a new loop. We're going to tighten the white on the right side. Okay, tighten up the little tendrils on the front. That's, we don't want to let that twist. Keep this working end tight while you do this. If it twists, it'll have the wrong color in your tendrils. That's what happened the last time. I knew I had it the right order, but somehow I let my working end get loose when I was pulling the front of this, and it screwed everything up. Okay. This, like I say, is a little tricky to keep the pattern, but we're going to keep our attention focused. Watch what's going on, and we should be good. Once you get the pattern going, and you can see it established, we still got about another stitch or two before we'll really be able to see the pattern. Just because of the way this comes off the buckle, it takes a minute, but you can start seeing these. I'll have a color, and so like the red will have the white below it, and then the white, I'm going to call these look like shoulders to me. So the next one I'll have after the white, it'll be red, and then have a red shoulder, and so on down the line. And you can see the zipper Sinnet here in the middle.
Control 319, Northwest TVM, Salt Lake Central's back in full service. Copy 319.
Okay, that was it. All right, so we're going to continue the pattern. Just to reiterate before I move on, I've got a white loop, white on the bottom. I've got a white loop, white on the bottom. So on the right, I'm going to take the red across the front, around the back, and across the front again. So I got my little curly Q through the loop, behind the core, and back out the loop. And then I can tighten my white loop on the left here. And we're going to keep this working end tight while I tighten up the tendril, my curly Q. Make that snug, make that snug. Okay, so I got a red loop, red on the bottom, white loop, white on the bottom. We're going to take the red cord on the left, across the front, around the back, across the front again, through the loop, over the core, under the core, and back out my loop. So I have a new loop I just created. Tighten the loop on the right. Keep my working end here tight. Tighten up that tendril. There it is. That tight. This tight. That tight. And like I say, you can start really seeing the pattern starting to form. Keep an eye on everything. Make sure red loop, red on the bottom, red loop, red on the bottom. We're going to go white across the front, around the back, across the front, through the loop, over the core, under the core, through the loop again. Tighten up the red loop. Okay, keep my end tight, snug up my tendril there. That's what we need to do. Okay. I'm starting to feel much better. When I made the pattern the other night, got it figured out, it was making sense. But I didn't get a chance to make the video. And so things were a little fuzzy. But we're getting it back. Like I say, just a little tricky. You just got to keep the colors, pattern straight. Okay. Go across the front, around the back, across the front again, through the loop, around the back side of the loop, out. And I think after this, we're going to probably separate for a minute. I'm going to tie this, continue this pattern. Like I say, once you get the pattern down, it's not difficult, but you just need to make sure to keep everything straight. And always look at your loop. That color should be on bottom. So white loop on the right, white loop on the right, white cord on the bottom on the right. white loop on the left, white cord on the left on the bottom. We can keep that up and keep making my tendrils, front, back, front, little curly Q right there. And then it's just the zipper Sinnet down the middle. Again, like I say, Mr. Coop's video for the modified zipper Sinnet with the core works great. I'm going to tie this up a little bit and we'll get back together shortly. Okay, I continued the pattern all the way down. As you can see, I don't have room for any more. So similar to what Mr. Coop did on the zipper Sinnet, I'm just going to pull this last loop tight so that I end up with these two sides like this. And I'm going to take this out of the jig. Oh, I was going to point that out. Remember how when I set up the core strands, I set my jig a little bit shy, almost a 1/4 inch, and made the core tight. And I told you it was going to grow on us. You can see how much this play has. Fortunately, I mean, the size is just spot on. It's perfect for fitting me, but it just is a little loose on the jig. It didn't really grow maybe 1/8 of an inch in length, but it's just not tight. Speaking of tight, I pushed the pattern up tight. I kind of like the tighter look. We'll go through and look at this when it's done. You can leave it tighter or looser. Didn't end up with too much scrap. I think the red, I could have done a little bit less, but on the white, if I'd have been a little any shorter than that, other than maybe 6 inches shorter, I wouldn't have enough to work with. So both sides I could maybe do 6 inches shorter. Maybe almost a foot with the red. We'll measure it here in a minute and see what I have ended up with. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take these reds and I'm going to just kind of hide them here in the back. I'm going to take this white. I'm just going to make a Solomon knot here. Let's see. I'm losing my mind here. Let's adjust this so I have room to work. All right. I've decided I want to hide the red in the back, and I want to make a normal Solomon, half of a square knot, cobra, whatever you want to call it there. And I'm just going to pull this tight, and I'm going to put the red so it comes out right here behind my buckle in the back. And just pull that sucker down good and tight. Pull that good and tight. And we're going to trim and singe those ends. I don't think it looks too bad. And again, it's going to be behind my wrist, so I'm not super concerned that it's not going to be matching the pattern. But we can look at the side. All right, I think that's going to work out. So I get my trusty little scissors, cut that. And I'm going to take my textured vegetable protein tool here, because that's going to be the part that shows. I like to put a little texture on that. Get the light right, you can see. There we go. Like I say, this is just a cuticle tool I found at the drugstore. Okay, I'm going to take the other side now, cut it as close as I can, Okay, take my tool again, roll it in the dough, give it a nice little textured finish. There we go. A little difficult to see because of the lighting. Okay, then I'm just going to take these two reds. I'm going to snip them both at the same time. And on this side, again, I'm going to use the smooth tool because this is going to be the side on my wrist. We'll smooth that sucker out nice, as you can see right there. Okay. That's pretty much it for this Grapevine Sinnet. As with all of JD's designs, it is two-sided, so if you did this with buckles and did the flat buckles, here's the back side. This is the side I wanted, the front side. And I think it's going to go well with my Shamrock Sinnet, my Shamrock Express, excuse me. These are going to be my holiday themed bracelets. I got a candy cane and a snowflake. Hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to help out any way I can.